Okay, so our speaker today is Emilia Heiman. She is a registered dietitian. We're going to be discussing lung health nutrition on a budget. If anyone has any questions, feel free to just interrupt and let us know. And our new moderator is joining us today. Her name is Robin Gilmore. She is a senior respiratory therapist at NATE. If you have any questions, concerns, contact me or Robin, and I'll give the floor over to Emilia. How about you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. So hi everyone. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you can hear me. Can I just get a feedback if I sound okay? You can hear me, guys?
Can anyone not hear Emilia? It's a little bit quiet. Okay, I can turn up my volume.
Sure. So let's begin. As Jamie mentioned, I'm more than happy to be here today and present to you about non-health nutrition on a budget. And it will also include some information on modifications for common side effects of certain medications, such as OFEV. And let's talk a little bit about myself. So next slide, please. So I am a registered dietitian and currently based in Toronto. I started my journey as a dietitian in Edmonton, so I love Alberta. Probably will go back there soon. My specialties are chronic disease management, sports nutrition, women's health, and plant-based eating. So yeah, I'm very happy to be with you today, and let's begin. So next slide. Let's talk a little bit about nutrition in general. Nutrition is a component of your disease management, and it's important to eat healthy, whether you're sick, healthy, or have any sorts of conditions. Eating well will give you the energy to breathe, fight infections, manage your conditions, maintain or improve weight and strength, and carry out activities of daily living. Just remember the recommendations or what we discussed today. These are just guidelines. It is always important to talk to your doctor and meet with a dietitian before before you attempt something new or start a new diet, just because the doctor knows your condition better and will understand if whatever you're trying to do, how you're trying to eat, if it fits your individual treatment plan, basically. So that being said, let's move to the next slide. So let's discuss a little bit, a few tips on how to eat healthy. So some basic tips, which you might have heard before, trying to stick to a diet of mostly whole, unprocessed foods with high nutritional value. And high nutritional value means, food that gives you nutrients, so like vitamins, minerals, fiber, protein, fat. So that's what you're trying to get. That's what you're trying to get most of your diet from. And trying to limit, high sugar, high fat, fried and high sodium foods that tend to be inflammatory and cause bloating, which can worsen shortness of breath. The way I look at it is, if you're trying your best to eat more whole and processed food, you will naturally eat less processed and higher sodium, higher sugar foods. So instead of stressing about like what not to eat, just focus on what to eat more of. So try to bake, boil, steam, grill your food, or eat raw if you're tolerating it. Another good tip is introduce fermented foods like pickled vegetables, olives, sauerkraut to your diet. Fermented foods boost your gut health, which is linked to respiratory and overall health. And there is data to suggest that it can also increase immunity against infections. So it can also help reduce that heavy feeling in your gut after eating. So one thing that as dietitian, a lot of people ask me is, okay, like we have all these principles of healthy eating, we kind of heard them before, but how does it translate to an everyday diet? Like, how does my plate look like? And Robin, maybe next slide, please. So here's how we translate this information. Who has seen this candidate food guide before? And I don't know, I don't see the participants, I guess, because they're coming from Facebook. So Jamie or Robin, if you see What is the reaction? If you can gauge it, have you seen this Canada's food guide before? Some of you might still, when you think about food guide, may still think about the previous versions that we had, because for a very long time we had the rainbow version where you had 4 food groups. But for the last few years, our new food guide has been looking like this, like a healthy plate. So are you guys familiar with it or not so much?
Oh, I'm seeing lots of nodding. Sounds
Okay,
like
yeah.
most people are familiar with it.
Okay, lovely. That's always good to hear. So let's talk a little bit about food guide in the next slide. So food guide is a great way to implement those basic healthy eating principles we discussed. So, you know, the core of this healthy plate is loading your plate with vegetables and fruit. So aiming for half a plate if possible. You know, fruits and vegetables will give you fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all necessary for, you know, for good health. And then for the rest of the plate, quarter of your plate with lean proteins, so fish, chicken, eggs, beans, and lentils. Proteins, they help to keep us full. And they're also important for muscle mass, which is our leaner body composition. So it's very important to have enough protein in our diet. And then the rest of the plate, the other quarter, with whole grains and starches for energy and fiber. And next slide, please. Another important arsenal, a tool in our arsenal when we're trying to eat healthy, is to know how to read the nutrition facts table. So I don't know if you have the habit of doing it, but if you go to the store and you look at any packaged food, you will see this nutrition facts table that provides you with all the information about your product. You will probably won't find it in food that has been made in store already, that is fresh, like fruits and vegetables. A lot of the meats won't have it, although some stores trying to have it as well. But any packaged foods, like your frozen foods, your canned foods, your breads or cereals, will have this information. And this is just a great way to be in charge and have the knowledge of, you know, what you're eating. Because, you know, sometimes we try the companies to let us know that food is healthy for us, but it's not always the case. And being able to read nutrition facts will allow you to learn and know what you about the food product that you're eating. So when we're looking at the nutrition facts table,
we have a question.
Hello.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be rude. Hello, but there's brown. And I don't know if somebody's close to a noise, but it's bothering everything you're seeing. Anybody else hear that? Yeah. So we can set up, if somebody's sitting close to a concentrator or something that's making a sound.
It's okay now.
No, I can still hear it. It sounds like somebody's heartbeat, actually.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't hear it personally.
Maybe we could have everyone mute themselves.
Yeah, so if everyone can just mute, if everyone can just mute themselves.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Okay. And thank you very much. I'm happy that you mentioned it because I want everybody to hear me, of course. Can I continue?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about reading those nutrition facts tables. So first thing, when you do look at your nutrition facts table, which is usually behind the package or on the side, you want to look at the serving size. So for example, in this product that we have, the serving size is for 1 cup. So it is always at the top of the nutrition facts table, and all the information in the nutrition facts table is based on this amount. So now if the serving size is listed as 1 cup, but you ate 2 cups, then you need to double all the amounts listed. Or if you ate half a cup, for example, like half of the amount, then you need to have all the, you know, all the amounts listed. Next, you want to look at things like calories, you want to look at protein, you want to look at fat, because again, it will be based on that serving amount. And so depending on your goals, you know, you might find yourself needing to adjust the amount, for example. And lastly, look at the percent daily value. So if you look at the right-hand side, you can see that there is the percent daily value listed for most of the nutrients. You won't find it for protein, you won't find it for cholesterol, but the percent daily value will show you if the food is high or low in a certain nutrient, and the keyword is per serving size. Typically 5% or less, 5% or less daily value means you have a little bit of that nutrient. So that is great for things like salt, saturated fat. 15% or more means there's a lot of that nutrient per that serving size, which is great for things like fiber. But of course, like if you look at sugar, you don't want 15% or more. Now, we're talking generally, you know, once in a while we will have products that we want to eat that are, you know, higher in sugar, for example, or salt. But if you're looking for cereal, let's say you really like cereal or you like a certain bread, it's always good to find those, you know, the products that kind of like maybe lower in salt and sugar, maybe higher in fiber and, you know, other nutrients. Again, the table is a guideline. So this is an average for a product and not exact for every single serving, but it's a great starting point. And if you are interested in kind of like learning more, there's a great tool that is listed on the slide just below the nutrition facts table. It's the NutritionX website, nutritionx.com. And you can go to that website and use it as a tool to find and compare nutrient content in different foods, like protein, chicken, and fish. If you kind of, you know, want to be a bit more geeky about it and learn more. So yeah, Canada's Food Guide, Nutrition Facts Table, great ways to kind of like incorporate those healthy eating principles. And for the next few slides, what we'll do is we will dwell more into kind of like certain nutrients that you can incorporate into your diet to improve your lung function. So Robin, if you want to scroll to the next slide. So don't let this in, you know, it's going to be a lot of information, but I think it's important to kind of talk about it. So diet makes a big impact on your health in the short and long term. So for example, just this year, we had a study that showed that cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and turnip contain chemicals that activate AHR, which is a receptor protein that helps maintain a healthy barrier in the lung, and thus reducing the risk and severity of respiratory infections. So again, diet is important. More things to consider for a healthy lung. Magnesium. Low magnesium levels are associated with muscle weakness, low appetite, and fatigue. Something that, you know, people with, you know, lung issues can experience already. So good source is to include pumpkin seeds, spinach, and almonds. Another vitamin is vitamin A, which helps support immune function. Very important in our diet, and you know, good sources include broccoli and fish. The next slide. Vitamin D is an important nutrient as well, and deficiency of vitamin D is linked to decreased lung function, as vitamin D has anti-scarring and anti-fibrotic properties, suppressing RAS, which is a pathway linked to scar development. And although dairy is a very good source of vitamin D and calcium, sometimes you do need to limit or avoid it, as it can increase mucus production and inflammation in some people. That's where it is very important to, again, you know, see a doctor to kind of see if you need to avoid it. So good alternatives for calcium and vitamin D include tofu, fortified orange juices, egg yolk, rice or soy beverages, and fish. And just to note, if you are choosing milk alternatives like rice beverage or soy beverage, look at the nutrition facts table, compare it to milk to make sure that you're getting good amount of calcium and vitamin D, because not all brands have good amount added to them. There's no really like standards. So for example, if vitamin D and like if calcium is 30% in milk, a cup of milk, and 45% daily value of vitamin D, you want to find similar amounts of those in your beverages. And there's a lot of companies out there with already good amount fortified. So just make sure that you kind of like, practice those label reading skills. Another thing to consider is vitamin C, that is linked to shortness of breath, like mucus and wheezing. So citrus, kale, and bell peppers are a good source of this antioxidant vitamin that help fight toxins and free radicals linked to disease. So again, good thing to consider. Apple, onions, and olive oil contain high levels of quercetin, which is an antioxidant linked to reduced inflammation, oxidative stress, and lung pollution. And let's start. And there's another slide. B vitamins. So B vitamins aid in breakdown of nutrients and can boost energy. So foods like salmon, nuts, grain products, spinach are great, foods to include in your diet. And many vegetables release more antioxidants when cooked. So cooked spinach releases more iron and vitamin D. So, you can steam it until it's tender, but still crispy, because you don't want all the vitamin B leaking. And you want to preserve, folate, which is the vitamin D, and the texture. And then iron, folate, and vitamin B12. Deficiencies are associated with shortness of breath, as they are essential to creating red blood cells that carry oxygen. So it is important when it comes to iron, you want to get both sources. You want to have heme iron and you want to have non-heme iron in your diet. Both types of these irons are protective against inflammation. Heme iron, you get it from meat. Non-heme iron, you get from vegetarian sources like beans and lentils. So heme iron from meat is much easier to absorb, but you also want to make sure you don't eat too much of it because it will increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. Non-heme iron from vegetarian sources like beans and lentils, like spinach, is not as readily absorbed, but you can pair it with citrus, and this will increase the iron absorption. So vitamin C, so citrus fruit, or your peppers, tomatoes, improve non-heme iron absorption. When you do eat heme iron, the meat sources, look for leaner sources like lean red meat or sardines. Sardines also contain omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory and help and protect our lungs in the long term. Also fun facts, because when we think about omega-3s, we think about fish, we think about flax seeds. Olive oil has also a lot of omega-3s. And now I know what you're thinking, that's a lot of information. How will I incorporate all these foods? What I usually recommend is starting with the food guide. Remember that half a plate of fruits and vegetables, aim for variety. Instead of worrying about, do I add this or do I add that? If you add something green and something colorful on your plate every time, like on your plate, that will mean that you will get all the nutrients. So ensuring that there is those greens like the spinach, the lettuce, arugula for non-heme iron, for all the antioxidant, and then something colorful like peppers, tomatoes for those antioxidants. Pairing them together will ensure that you're eating healthy and getting all the nutrients that you need. So thinking about eating with your eyes and incorporating more colors in your diet, instead of like really stressing over certain nutrients, that could be a great starting point. And next slide, just to mention a few more points. Some studies show that caffeine has actually a minor effect on dilating the airways and may have antifibrotic properties. So great news for those who like caffeine and like to drink coffee. However, be cautious. Excessive coffee consumption can increase heart rate, insomnia, and acid reflux. So moderation is key. It may also interfere with other conditions like blood pressure. So definitely talk to your doctor to see if, you can drink caffeine. a good rule of thumb is no more than 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day, which is equivalent to 2 cups of brewed coffee. That being said, you can find caffeine everywhere, from chocolates to candy bars to pops and energy drinks. And so it can easily add up. And especially if you're caffeine sensitive. So definitely discuss with your doctors to see if there's any issues, and also look at yourself, like how you feel. And also important to note, avoid caffeine before medical tests, especially when it comes to pulmonary function tests. So with that being said, if you are unable to get enough nutrition by eating, there's nothing wrong with supplements. Discuss nutritional supplements or multivitamins with your doctor. Of course, we want to get things from food, food first, but there's nothing wrong with supplements, especially when we're feeling unwell or having issues. However, remember, balance is key. For example, high doses of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K can have adverse effect and put a necessary strain on your kidneys that it filters out the excess. So discuss your nutrient needs with your doctor and be mindful of supplementing, especially with fat-soluble vitamins that take longer to filter out. So let's move on to the next slide. So what do you do if you're not feeling hungry? Because, sometimes lung disease can lead to lack of appetite due to chronic cough, inflammation, and shortness of breath while eating. It's often associated with thick mucus buildup, and this mucus is hard to sweep away by cilia, which is the tiny hair-like structure that sweep away bacteria and mucus in the lungs. And this buildup is also linked to lowered immunity and decreased lung function. Certain medication like AFib for pulmonary fibrosis are linked to causing nausea or acid reflux. And again, basically leading us to not feeling hungry. So you can try the following. Aim for smaller, more frequent meals to avoid feeling too full, which can make you feel as if your lungs cannot inflate enough. So maybe eating every few hours, every 2 to 3 hours, smaller portions could help. Again, like I mentioned before, we eat with our eyes. So colorful antioxidant-rich products can actually entice appetite. So maybe even trying to have a more colorful plate to make you hungrier. Some studies show that pure maple syrup in small doses may increase appetite. So even trying that, again, small amount, and that's the key. And making higher calorie addition to your food. So if you feel like you're not very hungry, adding a bit of extra calories per bite will make a difference, because you don't want to be malnourished. As we mentioned earlier, eating well, eating enough helps us to manage our condition as well and feel less tired. So for example, maybe adding some nut butter to smoothies or hummus and veggies to a chicken salad sandwich. Eat on a schedule, as it will help create and maintain hunger cues. Next slide. Some lung disease patients note food doesn't taste as good in addition to a lack of appetite. And this can be attributed to medication like aspirate or acid reflux, which can alter taste receptors by prolonged exposure to stomach acid. So, ways to make your meals more interesting and flavorful is by adding variety of dried herbs and spices to your food, like ginger, fennel, cinnamon, thyme, and coriander, which can actually stimulate appetite. Oregano, basil, and turmeric also have anti-inflammatory, antifibrotic properties that may slow down scar progression. You can also try making a vinaigrette or a sauce with herbs and spices to add calories and taste. So trying to play with your flavors just to see if there's, adding extra spices and sauces can make your food more appetizing and taste better. So let's talk about next slide. So what happens when you're fatigued? Let's say you are feeling fatigue. It is important to stay hydrated. Feeling tired is a very common sign of dehydration, and I find that sometimes when we're due to medication, our condition, if we feel like we're not very hungry, we sometimes forget to drink as well. And so, making us feeling even more fatigued. So try to sip clear, low sugar fluids throughout the day, preferably after meals. And it's very important to space out that glass. Don't guzzle it. Don't guzzle, as it can cause bloating and uncomfortable fullness, which happens often. Again, we forgot to drink, and then midday, end of the day, you realize that you're like super thirsty, and before you know it, you're like, drinking a lot, and that's where it can make things worse and make you more bloated. So, sometimes setting up a reminder to drink every so often is a great way. Kind of like an alarm, or just having those bottles that kind of like have a gauge that tells you to drink every hour or so, like something that will remind you to do it, would be great. If you're feeling, fatigue, it's hard to meal plan. And so, when you are feeling better, it's a great way to make extra meals. So maybe make some freezer friendly one pan and low prep recipes that can make the meal preparation less exhausting. Keep your pantry stocked with versatile, easy to cook items that can go in a variety of dishes. So, canned beans and lentils, can of frozen vegetables, canned tuna, or salmon, or even chicken. Versatile and easy to use. Pick a few recipes that you like, that are healthy, quick, and low effort for when you don't have much energy. Even sandwiches could be a good recipe, really. Just make sure that you stock yourself, with all the ingredients to make a healthy, balanced sandwich. And keep healthy snack at hand. So even like tuna and crackers, roasted beans, nuts are great crackers, are great snacks to have on hand. Use a food processor to shorten prep time. I recently discovered the air fryer, and a great tool to use when you're feeling like you don't have time to cook. Really, I cannot sing enough praises to it. So, okay, let's go to the next slide. How do we save money and time when we try to meal prep? You can use low sodium and cream-free soups and pre-cut or frozen produce like shredded carrots. I love to buy frozen vegetables and fruit and have in my freezer. Typically, because I don't want to, spend a lot of time going to the grocery store, and I find sometimes they're also cheaper. If you like fresh, what you could do is maybe buy some fresh and eat it first, but then use your frozen and canned products as well. Canned fruit and vegetables really are cost-effective option, and as long as you make sure they're low in sodium and sugar, and drain the liquid before use, you can even rinse the products, and it's good to go. If you go to a store, it usually has a no-name and the kind of like its own version of like a popular brand. So no-name and brand names are usually the same in terms of nutrition and quality. So if more a no-name or like the store brand is like, cheaper, definitely go for it. Doesn't have to be a certain, brand, for example. And really strategize grocery shopping. That will help you to save time and money. Bulk buy shelf-stable foods to reduce grocery store trips if you can. Just mentioned before, canned meat, frozen veggies. Go when it's less busy to reduce time standing in line. Team up with a family member or friend to combine shopping to reduce time, cost, and effort. Look for loyalty cards, flyers, coupons, and apps that make budgeting easier. And sometimes we don't feel well, like we're sick, and delivery is maybe a bit more expensive, but it's another option, because if we don't have the food at home, it will be hard to eat well. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit about dietary complications. So antifibrotics like Ofev and Esbriet are known to cause digestive side effects like nausea and diarrhea. So a good suggestion is to take Ofev in the middle of a meal. it is better tolerated with food in the stomach, especially if it has protein in it. So, we talked about Canada's food guide, and it tells you to have quarter of your plate protein. That will typically gives you around 20 grams. So aim to have 20 to 30 grams of protein with meals when you're taking your medication. Protein will slow digestion and increase enzyme activity for better nutrient absorption. So non-red meat animal protein is easier to digest. While plant protein offers more benefits overall, because usually plant-based proteins like beans and lentils and tofu will have more nutrition in it, like other nutrients in it, like fiber and antioxidants. So a good balance of the two is recommended, heme and non-heme iron, vegetarian and plant and meat sources of protein, animal sources, should I say. Eggs, canned tuna, chickpeas, whey protein, pea protein, and tofu are good sources of well-tolerated, budget-friendly protein. You can also take protein shake or add protein powder to your drinks, but choose ones without sucralose, which is sweetener, or dairy if you're sensitive and the doctor tells you to stay off it for a while. Next slide. So when you do have those, digestive side effects, you want to limit dairy and highly processed and high acid foods. You also want to limit or cut out wheat in favor of rice, oats, and quinoa. Fortified white rice or pasta is usually well tolerated during these conditions. Cook raw vegetables or add digestive aids like black salt or spices if causes stomach upset. Typically, when you have stomach upset, the BRAD diet is something that is very recommended. So BRAD stands for bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. And it usually handled better during digestive upsets. Generally soft, easy to digest foods are recommended to limit digestive side effects. You can add some textures with crackers, crunchy produce, shredded carrots, dry apples, or banana chips. Just, use sparingly because of the high sugar amounts. Next slide. And let's talk about fiber. If you're ever talking to a dietitian before, if you've spoken to a dietitian, we love our fiber. We talk about fiber a lot. Fiber is the non-digestive portion of the plant, found in whole grains, fruits, vegetables, beans, and lentils. And it's important for our health. It's important for satiety, for cholesterol, for blood sugar management, and gut health. However, like we discussed before, medications like Ofev may interact with fiber, and it can lead to stomach upset. So this is one of those instances when we tell you need to lower your fiber intake. It is recommended then not to have more than 3 grams of fiber per serving per meal, basically. So that's where, again, you get to practice your nutrition label skills. Look at it to see, that you have 3 grams or less of fiber per serving. Stick to half a cup, which is quarter of a plate of grains per meal. Try to choose more white rice, pasta, small white potatoes. And again, use the healthy plate, the balanced plate methods. Balance your carbs with proteins and vegetable, and add a little bit of fat to increase satiety. If you notice at the bottom of the slide, there is a great website. It's a very helpful tool to determine how much fiber is in different foods. So if you're not in the store or, where you cannot compare labels and you just, again, you want to geek out or you're just interested in knowing, okay, I want to eat this fruit, I want to eat these vegetables, what's a good serving size, how much should I have? Great information on this website on the different amounts of fiber in different foods and the serving sizes.
Robin, do you mind clicking the link and just giving people an example of that PDF, please?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
I think it's just better to copy.
it might be in presentation mode, so it's not letting you do that. However, after this meeting, I will put everything onto our Facebook group as well. And I believe Robin is doing her best to to accommodate my request. Thank you,
No
Robin.
pressure. Yes, as you can see, a really great tool. You have like the 4 serving size, you know, so let's say you want an apple and you see that a medium with skin is about 4 grams of fiber, you can eat half an apple. Or if you can see without the skin, it's almost, you know, it's 2.4 grams. So again, great way to, again, we love fiber. We want you to eat fiber, but sometimes we, you know, we have things that contraindicate it. And so that's where, you know, I'm so happy that there's so many tools available to help us to determine kind of like the nutrient content of food. And yeah, this is a very great tool to get back to if you find yourself needing to reduce your fiber intake, or if you need to increase it. It's a good way to use it as well.
Okay, thanks, Robin. I think you can go back to the presentation. I appreciate that. I just wanted to give people an example of what to expect.
Which was great. So we're in the acid reflux slide. So just a few more things to consider. You know, we talked about like, you know, gastrointestinal upset. Let's talk about another thing to consider is acid reflux. So many patients with lung conditions, especially interstitial lung disease like pulmonary fibrosis, they also have gastroesophageal reflux disorder, abbreviated as GERD, or also known as acid reflux. So early data suggests that gastric acid may make its way up into the lungs, increasing microirritation that worsen lung disease through microscopic damage and inflammation. So then it's very important then to pair high acidic foods with high alkaline foods. So for example, you know, when we're thinking about high alkaline foods, we're thinking about nuts, leafy greens, beans, you know, apricots, avocados, eggplants. These are foods that can help balance those acidic foods. Tomatoes are an important source of lycopene, which is an antioxidant linked to reducing cell damage and inflammation. However, it is high in acids. So if you do like tomatoes, for example, want to use it in your cooking, you can reduce it by the acids by removing the seeds, which contain most of the acid. You can reduce the cooking time or eat it raw, because acidity increases as it's cooked. You can also try adding baking soda to cut the acid after cooking tomatoes. And just for fun, guava and watermelon are also good sources of lycopene. So if you're wanting those lycopenes, but kind of like don't want to eat tomatoes, you can do that. Try to stay hydrated to help dilute the gastric acid. So again, choose high water foods like melon, cucumbers, sip on water, decaf coffee and tea. Because caffeine can worsen acid reflux. So try to do that throughout the day. Next. So again, I know we gave a lot of information, but really don't be intimidated. Like we mentioned before, just even, using that balanced plate and varying your fruits and vegetables could be a great start. But if you're not sure where to begin, some popular eating styles that you can use as inspiration. One is the Mediterranean diet. I love this diet. I use it a lot with people who have diabetes, cancer, heart diseases. It is an anti-inflammatory diet, which is high in colorful fruits and vegetables.
Emilia, can you just pause for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
Can everyone just mute themselves? We are just getting a lot of feedback and it's interfering with the recording. Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, Robin and Emilia, you guys can continue and unmute.
Yeah. So Mediterranean diet is an anti-inflammatory diet. It's very popular for a good reason. It is high in colorful fruits and vegetables, rich in omega-3 lean meats and fish, has healthy fats in it, like olive oil, avocado, but also low in sodium and sugar. And so a great diet to consider. Another diet that you might heard that a lot of people with digestive issues use it. It's not like a long-term diet, it's just like a short-term diet. Especially people with IBS would use it. It's the low FODMAP diet. So FODMAPs are fermentable sugars. So oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharides, and thiols. And these are basically indigestible carbohydrates that people with digestive issues have a hard time with them because they can lead to bloating. So what thing you want to do on this diet is to limit beans, wheat, cabbage. Even when you're not following low FODMAP, bean, wheat, and cabbage tend to cause bloating. You can include foods or pair these bloating foods with quinoa and lettuce, sweet bell pepper, celery, blueberries, barley, pineapple, sweet potatoes, banana, which are low in FODMAP and also are considered to be low bloating foods. Again, you want to talk to your doctor about anytime you start any kind of new diet. You want to meet with a dietitian, especially with diets like low FODMAPs. They're very restrictive and hard to follow, and you want to have some guidance, and you might not need to even follow it really, right? So these kind of diets, you want to make sure that you have some guidance, because sometimes they have limited options. They leave you with limited options of what you can eat, and you don't want to be malnourished or not eating enough of something. So if diets such as this, again, you need to consult your doctor. The internet presentations such as this, it's not enough, right? This is just guidelines. You want to talk to your physician and collaborate with a dietitian when possible. Let's finish with a few examples of kind of like, for some meal ideas. So here's some ideas for breakfast. So for example, again, incorporating that healthy plate we discussed before, during breakfast, you want around 20 grams of protein, because to help with the stomach upset and the medication management. So some protein choices for breakfast could be, 2 eggs. 1 egg is not enough. It's just 7 grams of protein. So you want 2 eggs. You want 3/4 of a cup of a Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt has almost double the amount of protein than a regular yogurt. So that's why you hear lots of us recommending Greek yogurt. You want 3 ounces of meat or fish. Some people like meat or fish for breakfast, but I'm not talking about bacon, maybe like, turkey bacon, for example. And again, be careful of beans and lentils as they are high in fiber if you do have stomach upset. You want to add some fat. So 1-2 tablespoons of healthy fats, such as avocado, olive oil, or 1 and 2 ounces of nuts, or 1 tablespoon of nut butter. And then, you want 1/2 cup of low fiber grains. So cream of wheat, for example, could be a great substitution if you cannot eat oatmeal. 2 pieces of white bread, 1/2 cup of rice, and then you want a banana, small banana, or 1 cup of carrots. So some small fruit or vegetable. So for example, a good way to look at it would be like a Greek yogurt parfait with maybe a little bit of like low fiber cereal on top and some fruit, or cream of wheat with a bit of like nut butter, a little bit of maple syrup, and maybe small banana slices. That's kind of like example of kind of how you have a balanced breakfast is going to look like, especially if you removing a little bit of the fiber. Let's go to the lunch and dinner. Same principle. Again, you want around 20 grams of protein with every meal, because you want to manage stomach upset and medication. So again, that could be 3 to 4 ounces of meat, or maybe trying some fish, or even tofu, which has soy protein, and it's very good for us. Again, you want some fats, 1 to 2 tablespoons of avocado or olive oil or nuts or nut butter. And again, 1/2 cup of low fiber grains. So that could be rice with some, stir-fried rice with vegetables and with some tofu added. You can have a salad with some a little healthy olive oil, with some avocados, with a little bit of fish on the side, and maybe add like half a cup of rice to your salad. So let's finish with a few more examples of how to incorporate different nutrients. So like go into the specificity of it. So for example, a spinach salad. A spinach salad, spinach is a great alkaline source of vitamin B, non-heme iron, magnesium, and antioxidants. Then you pair it with orange slices, which are a good source of vitamin C, which help us increase the non-heme iron absorption. Then add in olives or pickled carrots, which are fermented food, which are good for gut and respiratory health. As you can see, very, very great salad. You can dress it up with olive oil and pepper for omega-3s, add a vinaigrette for extra taste and calories. So that will be your salad. And for pasta, you can have white pasta with cooked tomato pasta sauce. I get good source of lycopenes. Add some sardines to it, or like even salmon, lean protein and has omega-3s. Add some sweet bell peppers for vitamin C, antioxidants, and its low bloating properties, and basil, which have antifibrotic and anti-inflammatory properties. And then for dessert, you can have baked apples, which are a great source of quercetin, with a bit of maple syrup for extra calories and sweetness, and cinnamon for its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. So, and again, if you kind of like feel overwhelmed, just remember colors. Think about colors, follow the food guide, vary those fruits and vegetables that you're eating, follow the portions per food guide, eat the nutrition labels. And that is a very great start to kind of like eating healthy and managing, your lung health and overall health. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments.
Hey, does anyone have any questions? Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Okay, I have 3 questions.
Okay, hold on. Robin, can you mute, please? Thank you. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Don't hear anything?
Emilia, could you hear that or no?
No, I couldn't hear it.
Okay, so the question was, we are recommending fortified white bread products, and the overwhelming evidence is usually, we're recommending whole grain, whole wheat bread, and that is true that it is technically healthier. However, the amount of fiber in it, for pulmonary fibrosis would lead to digestive upsets if you're on OFEV or Esbriet. So we recommend avoiding whole wheat. Look for other whole grains, or alternatively have fortified white bread products. So you are right that it is healthier. It's just in this situation, it's better to avoid whole grain bread or whole wheat bread or anything that is high in fiber.
Yeah, because
What was your
it's
other
important.
question?
I was just about to say, like, again, it's important to remember that there are guidelines and general rules to, what we recommend as a healthy diet, but each condition has its own rules and things to consider. And we do love fiber, but when you having stomach upsets and other issues that if you cannot manage, like for example your diarrhea or other issues, then that could lead to malabsorption of other nutrients. So it's just a matter of in this case a bit lower fiber, but that means that you're keeping the food in and you absorb other nutrients as well.
Okay, so Emilia, we did have a follow-up question. I think my screen froze. Sorry about that, Brian. Can you repeat your question about water? Okay,
I
good
don't
question.
hear, I don't hear it. I didn't hear it.
Okay, I'll just repeat it. I think it's just my screen is occasionally lagging because I'm on both platforms, but Brian
Mhm.
was wanting some guidelines on how much water to drink. For the longest time, it was drink 6 glasses or 8 glasses a day, and now they're saying drink 1/2 your body weight in ounces. So, Amelia, can you maybe give a bit more guidance on what water intake should be?
And that's again, as with any dietary discussions we had, it's a guidance, right? We don't need to drink half of our weight in ounces in water. Like it's basically the 6 to 8 cups of water is just general guidelines because we forget to drink. And you cannot give specific, like when you're talking about populations of millions of people, for example, it's hard to, you have to kind of like come up with an average, right? A median. So you're right, 6 to 8 is kind of like a population guideline recommendation, but we're all individual because you know our intake depends on how much we sweat, how active we are, right? How much water we lose, our like different health conditions. So it's hard to 100% say how much, like for me, I cannot tell you how much you need, right? Just that's why we go to more generalized guidance. A good rule of thumb, if your kidneys are healthy, is to look at your urine color. When you are waking up in the morning, your urine is very yellow and concentrated, right? It's normal. You didn't drink at night, but throughout the day, your urine should clear out. It be more on a clearer side. That's kind of like a quick way to estimate if you're drinking enough or not. If your urine clears out throughout the day, again, 6 to 8 cups of water is great rule of thumb to follow. This is not a bad rule of thumb. When it comes to the ounces, it's about, if it's 8 ounces per cup, so it's about 64 up to 64 ounces per day. There's a lots of trends online of people drinking like a gallon of water or half a gallon, like it's 2 to 4 liters. Like you don't need a gallon of water. Nobody needs it. Like there's, even with water, there is such a thing as too much. And 4 liters, like a gallon, it's excessive. So I know it's not an exact answer, and that's because we're all different. Our bodies are different. We have different dietary needs, different needs in general. And so again, when we're talking about recommendations for population, it's always going to be an average, an estimate, kind of like, we're trying to hit everyone. So 6 to 8 cups, it's a rule of, like, it's just a great guidance. Don't forget, we also, if your coffee, your tea, you're making a smoothie, you're drinking milk, it will account. So it's not just the water, it's also other liquids that you're getting throughout the day. So you don't have to just drink 8 cups of water. But really, it's when you're thirsty, drink throughout the day, and look at your urine color. And again, if you worry, like, you can always talk to your doctor if you worry that there's something that might require you to, need more or less water. But generally speaking, 6 to 8, watching your urine color.
Okay, thanks, Amelia. Are there any other questions? Oh, for sure. Ask away. That's actually a really, really good question, and something I struggle with as someone who lived alone for a while as well. So I think that'd be really good to know for everybody. Amelia, the question was, when looking at the guidelines and the Canada Food Guide, etc., how does one do fridge management and pantry management where you aren't gathering a bunch of food that goes bad? How do you keep it all fresh? How do you keep it all organized so you're not having food go bad? Or alternatively,
yeah.
buying too much or not using enough?
Yeah. So that's where, first of all, it's a very good question. We all waste food. There's nothing worse than buying something and, buying spinach with the intention of eating it and, and it's in a few days throwing it away. That's where kind of having an idea of what you'd like to eat. I'm not, like maybe a few recipes to base your shopping list on. So maybe knowing, okay, I'm gonna make chili and I'm gonna make a spinach salad to have with salmon. Then you know what ingredients you need for that. And so yeah, like it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like, meal planning definitely can be daunting sometimes. So sometimes what I like to do is say, okay, what two sources of protein I'd like to eat this week? Maybe I want salmon and I want um some chicken. So I know I have those. And good thing about it, I can freeze them and and thaw them out the day before in the fridge. Maybe choose like rice. It's non-perishable quinoa, like it can be in the pantry for quite some time. And like I mentioned before, frozen vegetables are a great way for those days that, like if you aren't unsure what you want to eat, but you have a variety of frozen vegetables in the freezer, you can steam them, you can bake them, you can stir fry them. I love making them in the pan, like I already talked about it, I like my air fryer. Great way. So it's again, like if we don't know what we're gonna eat, we will always waste food. So it's just good idea maybe to choose like a day and maybe pick two recipes or so. Or if you know that you don't want to cook, maybe it could be like, okay, maybe I'm gonna buy bread and I have canned tuna. I'm gonna buy rotisserie chicken and remove the skin because that will help, and add it to a bagged salad. That is meal planning as well. So it doesn't have to be any fancy or complicated, but yeah, definitely one way to reduce wastage is just kind of like think about realistically what am I, kind of like what are some meals that I will make in the next few days, and then basing your shopping list of that. Because yeah, if we don't have it in the house, it's hard to know what we're gonna eat. Hopefully that answered your question.
Okay, great. Thank you all. So I do recognize that we are 10 minutes over our usual time. So I'm going to end the meeting here. If there are any follow-up questions or suggestions or feedback, feel free to post it in the Facebook group. Thank you, Emilia, so much for your time. I know it is late. It's 10 p.m. in Toronto. So thank you for staying so late. I'll let you go. Everyone have a good night. And I will have the posting on the Facebook group this week.
Thank you guys. It was lovely, hearing you.